Good evening, everybody. Good evening, and welcome to yet another supremely amazing one shot video on the second chapter of Human Physiology unit. We are dealing with body fluids and circulation. Please don't worry about the second chapter, that is breathing and exchange of gases, because I haven't taught you about it. Definitely, I'll take the one shot of it. Okay, so only after we complete those chapters which I have taught you as a live lecture. Clear. So only after that we will be moving on. After we finish the chemical coordination, or in between them also, we will definitely take out that chapter. I got the slides of I got prepared the slides of this, so I started with this chapter. So today for NEET 2021-2022 batch, we are starting with the one-shot video on the chapter Body Fluids and Circulation. You know what is this chapter dealing with? In this chapter, we are studying about the blood groups, the different types of specialized connective tissue such as blood. Then one more is there, that is the lymph is there. Then we are studying about certain diseases of the circulatory system, about what are the parts of the circulatory system, how the transport is happening inside our body, then about the different functions of lymph and blood, the different types of functions of different types of blood cells present in the blood. All those things we are dealing over in this chapter. Then about double circulation, about the most important electrocardiograph, ECG, and all we are dealing about in this chapter in detail on the chapter body fluids and circulation. Biopoints to in the world of bios, Telegram group link at biopoint.new for class 11th, 12th, and NEET 2021-2022. So in this group, we can take regular discussion, polls, updates on our classes, aim at 100K series, and today we are going to hit 200. Okay, we have already completed 200 questions successfully today. And the updates on our classes, the daily schedules, everything will be posted upon on this particular Telegram group at BioPoint New. This is our BioPoint NEET. Don't forget to hit the like button right now. Those who are watching the session without hitting the like button, don't forget to share it with your friends. Tell me, guys, how many of you have shared yesterday's one shot lecture of digestion with your friends in WhatsApp, Instagram, Facebook, or whatever? Yes, so please do hit the like button, do share it with your friends, subscribe the channel, and leave the comment about the session in the comment section. This is a crash course. I already told you, I have already mentioned, we have completed successfully 200 questions in 8 days. So to know more about the crash course and to join the crash course, which is absolutely free, join our Telegram group at BioPoint to know more about the crash course for NEET 2021 as well as NEET 2022. So we have already started yesterday, and this continuously 1 week we are moving on with the one shot series of the chapters of human physiology first of all. So do join our direct link to our Telegram group t.me/biopoint new. So with all your permission, without wasting at least 1 second, we are moving on to this chapter, body fluids and circulation, with the one shot revision. Ready, everybody? Give me hearts on the screen, everyone. Give me hearts on the screen, everybody. Thank you so much. So let's move with this chapter of body fluids and circulation. Yes, you know that in this chapter we are first dealing about the concept of blood. Actually, what is blood? We have studied a very small topic on the blood already in the chapter structural organization in animals. So what is actually blood? Blood is actually a fluid connective tissue. Blood is actually what? Blood is a fluid connective tissue. Blood is actually what? It is a fluid connective tissue. So one more fluid connective tissue. Fluid connective tissue is mainly divided into two. That is, number one, you will have one type of fluid connective tissue is the blood, and the other type of fluid connective tissue is the lymph. So lymph and blood both have similar functions. Most of the functions are similar, but there are some differences also. Blood is red in color, lymph is yellow in color due to the variation in their components. For example, in blood, you will have different types of cells, RBC, WBC, platelets. But in lymph, you won't have the RBC. Okay, that is why they are straw yellow color. They are yellow in color, the lymph. So, the blood is a fluid connective tissue which is composed of different cells, that is RBCs, WBCs, and platelets. What do you mean by, what is the scientific term for RBC? The scientific term for RBCs are erythrocyte. The scientific term for RBCs is erythrocytes. WBC is a scientific or the biological term that is going to come for your NEET examinations and all is the leukocytes. You won't see the option as RBC, WBC, platelets. You will have the biological names only because it is a nationwide competitive examination. So biological names are mostly accepted. So RBC, in rare cases, you will have RBC, WBC platelets also in order to avoid confusion. So RBC, erythrocytes, WBC, leukocytes, and platelets, the scientific name or the biological name is the thrombocytes. We already studied the words that are ending with sites, fibrocytes, then osteocytes, chondrocytes, all those things indicates what? The cells. Erythrocytes, leukocytes, thrombocytes. So all the different words ending with the term sites indicates they are cells. Clear? So RBC is a, first of all, blood is a fluid connective tissue. Inside our body, we have two different kinds of fluid connective tissue or specialized connective tissue. That is blood as well as lymph. So the blood contains different type of components or different cells, that is RBC, WBC, and platelets. Before that, I will give you a table. All of you draw it along with me. Okay, take down the table along with me. The blood. The blood is broadly classified. So the blood is not, I'm not talking about the classification, the components of the blood. The blood mainly has two components, that is a liquid part is there and a solid part is there. So the liquid part of the blood, you will call it as the plasma. Okay, the liquid part of the blood is the plasma, and the second part that is a forms a solid components, that is the formed elements. Okay, so the blood consists of mainly two different parts, that is the plasma and the formed elements. Plasma is a straw colored, yellow colored substance that is present in the blood that constitute nearly most of the percentage of the blood. And inside the plasma, you would have the nearly 92 to 94 percentage of the plasma is completely covered by water, is filled with water. Then the formed elements can mainly be classified into three. Okay, the formed elements can mainly be classified into three, that is erythrocytes or RBC, leukocytes or WBC, and you will have the platelets or the thrombocytes. Clear? RBC, WBC, and the platelets. WBC can again be classified. I'll not be explaining each and everything. Some of the things you know, that is why I'm mixing it and saying. WBC can again be divided into granulocytes. WBC can again be divided into granulocytes and agranulocyte. What do you mean by granulocytes? Granulocytes means inside the cytoplasm of such WBC, you will have the presence of the granules are there. Okay, in the cytoplasm of those types of granulocyte WBC, you would have the presence of certain granules. Agranulocytes means inside their cytoplasm you will not have no granules. Okay, no granules are present. That is, they are known as the agranulocytes. Granulocytes can mainly be divided into, again can be classified into three. That is, just remember granulocytes as Ben. Okay, what is Ben? Ben stands for granulocytes. Ben stands for granulocytes, that is basophils, eosinophils, and you have the neutrophils. Okay, what are the three different components of agranulocyte WBC? They are basophils, eosinophils, and neutrophils, each of which have different function. One is concerned with inflammatory reaction, one is concerned with phagocytosis, one is concerned with the immune system, one is concerned with the allergic response and everything. Okay, let's discuss in detail about all those things. Agranulocytes can mainly be classified again into two, that is monocytes. Monocytes are there, and you will have the concept with lymphocytes. Monocytes and lymphocytes are present. Okay, lymphocytes can be of two types, B lymphocytes and T lymphocytes. I hope it's clear. Blood is mainly composed of two main parts, that is a blood plasma, which is a liquid part of the blood, and the formed elements, which can again be classified into three: RBC, WBC, and platelets. WBC can be classified into granulocytes and agranulocytes. Granulocytes means they have granules in the cytoplasm. Agranulocytes means they don't have any specific kind of granules in their cytoplasm. Granulocytes, you can remember them by a code, that is Ben. Basophils, eosinophils, and neutrophils can come under granulocytes. Monocytes and lymphocytes comes under the case of agranulocytes. So this is what we have to, the basic classification that we might know before entering into this chapter in detail. Yes, let's move on. Plasma, I already told you, plasma is a liquid part of the blood, and it constitutes nearly 55% of the blood volume. So inside the blood, out of the 100% of the blood, 55% is constituted by the blood plasma. It is a viscous fluid, a straw-colored yellow fluid which contains 90 to 92% of water. I have already told you this particular points. Okay, the blood plasma constitute nearly 55% of the total volume of the blood, and it is a viscous fluid. It contains about 90 to 92 or 92 to 94 percentage, depending upon the cells. 90 to 92 or 92 to 94 percentage of the plasma is occupied by what? Is occupied by the water. One second. One second, guys. Okay. I hope up to here is it clear. We haven't discussed anything tough till now. Okay. So let's move with the next one. Other than water, plasma contains 6 to 8 percentage of protein. Very important MCQ question for your NEET exam. 100 percentage. NEET 2020 also the similar question asked for the test. Right? Similar question came for your exam. 6 to 8 percentage of the plasma are composed of blood proteins. What are the three different kinds of blood proteins are present? What are the three different kinds of blood protein? You will have fibrinogens, you will have different types of albumins, you will have certain types of globulins also present inside the blood plasma. Clear, everybody? Is that clear? Fibrinogen, albumin, globulin, three different kinds of blood proteins present in the blood plasma. You might have also studied that the blood plasma devoid of clotting factor, blood plasma which is devoid of clotting factor is known as devoid of clotting factor, or they can ask you any one protein specifically. Blood plasma devoid of fibrinogen or blood plasma devoid of albumin. Sorry, not albumin, plasma devoid of fibrinogen, because fibrinogen is a clotting protein. So blood plasma devoid of fibrinogen or blood plasma devoid of clotting factor, you will call that part of the blood plasma as serum, which is very, very important and a repeated MCQ question for AIPMT. Okay, so you know what is fibrinogen. When we are studying about the blood coagulation, we already studied about what are fibrinogen, what are their functions. Fibrinogen helps in the clotting of blood. It is a blood protein which helps in the clotting of blood. Then you have about the albumins. What is the function of albumins? Yes, what is the function of albumins? Tell me on the chat box if anyone knows. What is the function of albumins? Yes, nobody knows. Then tell me what is the function of globulin. You might have in the human health and disease chapter, I told you about IgA, IgG, IgM, IgE and all. I taught you about different types of antibodies. Absolutely, globulins helps in providing the defense mechanism. They are associated with defense mechanism of the body. Okay, everybody. Clear. Albumins. Now also nobody have answered me the function of albumin. So I'll be telling albumin helps in maintaining the osmotic pressure of the cell. Osmotic pressure. So fibrinogen is a clotting protein or helps in blood clotting. And albumin helps in maintaining the osmotic pressure. Albumin helps in maintaining the osmotic pressure. Globulins are associated with the defense mechanism. That is, globulins forms an important part of antibodies. And so blood plasma consists of 90 to 92 percentage of water, 6 to 8 percentage of proteins, fibrinogen, albumins, and globulins. Then certain kinds of amino acid, glucose is present, small amount of electrolytes such as sodium ion, calcium 2 plus, chlorine ions, etc. Next, we are going to discuss about the formed elements in detail in the upcoming slides. What is their lifespan, what is their function, everything. So they include erythrocytes, which can also be known as, commonly you call it as what, RBC. Leukocytes, commonly you call it as WBC. Then, and you have the thrombocytes. And you have the thrombocytes, commonly you call it as the blood platelets. Erythrocytes. Next, we are going to discuss about the erythrocytes. Okay, erythrocytes, as we have been telling constantly, erythrocytes are also known as RBC. And when a cut or injury happens inside in the body, what happens? What you see? What do you see over there? You will see that the thing that is coming out is red in color. That indicates that erythrocytes are the most abundant cells present in the human blood. The most abundant cell that is present in a large quantity in it. Okay, so erythrocytes are the most abundant blood cells that contains an oxygen containing oxygen carrying pigment, which is known as hemoglobin. In the lower classes, when we study, we will tell that what is the function of hemoglobin. Hemoglobin is a red colored pigment. So when such kind of a question comes for the exam, or which of the following is a function of hemoglobin, then definitely you will go with the answer as it gives red color to the blood. It's not the answer. It's not the apt answer over there. What is a function of hemoglobin? Hemoglobin helps in the transport of oxygen. Hemoglobin acts as an oxygen carrier. Okay, the oxygen carrier pigment present inside our body is referred to as what? Is referred to as the hemoglobin. Okay, everybody, is that clear? Clear, everyone? Yes. Then hemoglobin, that's the most important function. It acts as an oxygen carrier. It consists of two main parts. Hemoglobin consists of an iron part and a protein part. It consists of heme is an iron part, globulin is a protein part. What is where are the erythrocytes formed? The erythrocytes are formed inside the bone marrow. Mostly in the red bone marrow, you will have the formation of erythrocytes. So erythrocytes are formed in the bone marrow. What is their shape? They have a biconcave shape without any cell organelles or nucleus also. So why RBC lacks nucleus? Which of the following? One question frequently, I now also remember one question, 2018 question, I hope. NEET 2018, constantly you are making mistake. Adult human RBCs are enucleated. Which of the following correctly describes the reason for that? Then four statements are given. Constantly you are making the mistakes. So what is the absence or what is the advantage of RBC not having a nucleus? Without nucleus, it will have an increased surface area. The surface area for absorption of oxygen will increase so they can transport more oxygen. They can absorb more oxygen. Otherwise, those spaces would have been occupied with the nucleus. So to avoid the transportation of less oxygen, nucleus is absent in a mature RBC because they have more important function than the presence of nucleus. They have to transport oxygen to all the body parts. Okay, so the next two important question that can come from here is that RBC lack mitochondria. I'm going very slowly, right? I'm going very slowly to make each and every topic clear for you. We have reached only second slide. Half hour passed away, I hope. So next organelle that is absent, cell organelle which is absent is the mitochondria. Why is mitochondria? What is the function of mitochondria? Anybody? What is actually the main function of mitochondria? We studied in 11th standard cell chapter also, in the 10th standard, in the 9th standard chapter also, 10th standard also we have studied that mitochondria is associated with cellular respiration. They are the powerhouse of the cell. So for the powerhouse of the cell, energy is required. So oxygen is required for cellular respiration. So if mitochondria is present, RBC will not be able to complete its function 100%. Why? Because mitochondria itself needs a large amount of oxygen for all these kinds of cellular respiration and all. So since mitochondria is absent, they can absorb most oxygen and can transport the whole oxygen absorbed by them into the respective sites. Then third organelle which comes as a question is endoplasmic reticulum, endoplasmic reticulum. What is the advantage of RBC not having endoplasmic reticulum? Guys, are you all understanding what we are discussing? Tell me, give me thumbs up on the chat box. All these are the simple topics. Even though this is a premiere session, I am taking each and every point as how we have taught yesterday's live. Yes. So what is the absence of endoplasmic reticulum advantages to these erythrocytes? Because why? because the endoplasmic reticulum, with absence of endoplasmic reticulum, what happens is that the RBCs becomes flexible. That is, they can pass through even the minute capillary. Endoplasmic reticulum means they provide a structural support, a structural framework to the cell. So if endoplasmic reticulum is absent, they can squeeze through the minute capillary, and that is why RBC is reaching the toe even. Up from brain till toe, all the organs, all the even the minute sites are receiving what? Blood. Oxygenated blood. Then the RBC have a lifespan of 120 days. The RBC have a lifespan of 120 days. And they are destroyed in the spleen, which is referred to as the graveyard of RBC. Okay, the spleen is referred to as the graveyard of RBC. Another important terms that you have to study. If the normal count, I'll tell you, I haven't told you about the normal count. Listen, the normal count of RBC is 5 to 5.5 million. Okay, 5 to 5 million, 5 to 5.5 million per cubic centimeter cube, for per cubic millimeter cube of blood. So I'll erase it and write it once again for everybody. Look, the RBC is generally 5 to 5.5 million per cubic millimeter cube. 5 to 5.5 million per cubic millimeter cube of blood. In case this 5 to 5.5 million per millimeter cube of blood is found in case of males, and in case of females you will have them as 4.5 to 5 million per millimeter cube of blood. Clear? And if the number of RBC increases beyond the normal level, if the amount of RBC present in the blood increases beyond the normal level, that disorder you will call it as what? Polycythemia. You will call it as polycythemia. Polycythemia. Poly means increased number of RBC. So if RBC is increasing also, it can cause different diseases. One of the disorder is polycythemia. Second one, if the number of RBC is decreasing considerably, or the number of RBC is lowering considerably, such a condition you will call it as erythropenia. Okay, such kind of a condition you will call it as what? Erythropenia. So you will have the increased number of RBC as polycythemia and the decreased number of RBC as erythropenia. So these are the important points which we have to study in case of erythrocytes or RBC. They are the most abundant cells present in the blood. They are formed in the bone marrow. Their normal count is 5 to 5.5 million per mm of blood in case of males, and in case of females it's 4.5 to 5 million. They are biconcave in shape. They lack certain cell organelles such as nucleus to absorb most of the oxygen, lack mitochondria to transport all absorbed oxygen into the respective sites. They lack endoplasmic reticulum so that they can squeeze to the easiest way, or the small minute capillaries even. They have a lifespan of 120 days and they are destroyed in the graveyard of RBC, which is referred to as the spleen. Next, the disorders of the RBC or erythrocytes, that is, if the RBC is increasing abnormally, if there is an abnormal increase in the number of RBC, you will call them as polycythemia. And if the number of RBC is decreasing abnormally, then that condition you will call it as what? Erythropenia. I hope it's clear. Let's move on to the concept of leukocytes. Okay. Leukocytes referred to as WBC. Leukocytes are also referred to as WBC. They are actually colorless. Okay, leukocytes are actually colorless because hemoglobin is absent. Due to the absence of hemoglobin, leukocytes or WBCs are colorless liquids, not liquid, colorless substances. That is due to the absence of the red colored pigments called hemoglobin. They are of two types, that is we have already discussed granulocytes and agranulocytes. Granulocytes means Ben, basophils, eosinophils, neutrophils. Agranulocytes, monocytes and lymphocytes. They have a lifespan. The RBC have a lifespan of 120 days. The WBC, one second. Yes, the WBC have a lifespan of 3 to 4 days only. Okay, 3 to 4 days is the lifespan of WBC. 3 to 4 days is the lifespan of WBC. The granulocytes includes the Ben, that is the neutrophils, eosinophils and the basophils. The agranulocytes include lymphocytes and monocytes. Let's discuss in the function of each one of them. Neutrophils have a polymorphic nucleus, very important. The type of WBC that have a polymorphic nucleus, it is neutrophils. And they have got, what is a function? They helps in providing defense mechanism. They are phagocytic cells. They have the ability of phagocytosis. Neutrophils are polymorphic nucleus and have a phagocytic ability. Then you have the basophils. Basophils are involved in the inflammatory reaction. Basophils are involved in the inflammatory reaction. Very important. They also secrete certain substances such as histamine and serotonin. Repeated NEET aims question. Several years repeated question MCQ. 100% MCQ. Okay. Sorry. Basophils are involved in inflammatory reaction and they secrete certain substances like histamine, serotonin, etc. The last type of the last type of granulocyte is the eosinophils and they are involved in the allergic reaction. Okay, eosinophils involved in the allergic reaction, basophils involved in inflammatory reaction, neutrophils involved in the phagocytic activity. The next type of blood cell, the next type of blood cell is the blood platelets or the thrombocytes. You know what is a function? Their main function is clotting. So the main function of thrombocytes of blood platelets is the clotting of blood. They are formed from the megakaryocyte cells of the bone marrow. All these things I don't have anything to do. You have to by heart these terms. Either you can write and study these terms. These are all previous year MCQ. Blood platelets are produced by which cells of the liver? Liver also you will have the megakaryocytes. Okay, certain kinds of cells are there. So now blood platelets is produced by the megakaryocyte cells of the bone marrow or liver also you will have the production of platelets. Clear everybody? Okay, is it clear? Is it clear for everybody? Yes. Let's move with the next one. Let's move on. Blood groups. Very important topic. You all know one MCQ question guaranteed from this topic. One MCQ question which is guaranteed from this topic of blood grouping, that is ABO blood grouping and RH blood grouping. Two different kinds of blood grouping are seen. First, we are going to discuss about the ABO blood grouping. Okay, so ABO blood grouping contains 4 types of blood group. Here I am telling only those things which are needed as per this chapter of circulatory system, but you will study about the genotype, phenotype, how the different types of blood groups are coming for different organism and all in the chapter of principles of inheritance and variation, which will be starting very soon. So the ABO blood grouping, there are 4 different types of blood groups are there: A, B, AB and O. So we all know that A blood group is there, B blood group is there, AB is there, O blood group is there, right? So it is based on the presence or absence. It is based on the presence or absence of surface antigens on the RBC. Guys, antigens are present on the RBC, antibodies are present on the plasma. Very important in yesterday's 175th poll, I hope not 175th. Yesterday's 25 polls in between you had this question. AB blood group is referred to as a universal recipient because it has antigens. Antigens are always present on the RBC and they have antibodies in the blood plasma, and that depends. Okay, so the blood group A means they have antigen A in their body. If antigen A is present and if antibody A is itself present in that particular cell, what happens? It will get coagulated because an antigen is there. What is the function of antibody? To destroy the antigen. If antigen A is there and antibody A is present in the same cell, what happens is that the antigen and antibody, the blood cell, will get destroyed. The antibody will completely destroy the antigen present. It will finally lead to the clotting of blood. Clear? Is that clear? Okay. Then the antibody. So since antigen A is present in the blood group A, then antibody B is present. From which all blood group can they receive the blood? That is blood group A or blood group O. Then blood group B, you will have the antigen B and antibody A. The donor blood groups are B and O. Blood group AB, guys, A, B and O are repeated MCQ question, favorite questions of NTA. Favorite question of question preparers. Blood group A, AB have antigens, both antigen A and B, but blood group O has no antigens. But blood group O has both antibody A and B, but blood group AB has no antibody. They are the universal recipient, AB blood group, so they can receive blood from any blood group. So they are referred to as a universal acceptor or universal recipient. All blood groups, since they don't have any antigen, they cannot receive blood from anybody. They can receive blood from O blood group only. So because both antibody A as well as antibody B is present, if they give a blood from or if they receive a blood from blood group A, antigen A is present, so antibody A is also present in O blood group. So what happens is that coagulation takes place. So let's try about B. Blood group B, antigen B is present, so antibody B is present in case of O, so coagulation happens. AB, both antigen A as well as antigen B is present in case of O blood group. Antibody A as well as antibody B both are present, so coagulation takes place. So O blood group can receive blood from only persons having a O blood group. Then you have the RH blood grouping, RH positive and RH negative. Okay, RH positive and RH negative. RH positive means in those RBC which have an RH antigen present, they are referred to as RH positive. And in those RH negative, that is why we are telling B positive, B negative, O positive, O negative, A negative, A positive, O positive, O negative, AB positive, AB negative, and all we will be telling. Those negative and positive is based on the presence and absence of this surface antigen or RH antigen. Clear? Yes. RH blood grouping. Nearly 80% of the people have RH antigen on the surface of RBC. Those who have RH antigen is referred to as RH positive, and those who are without it are referred to as RH negative. Next, the most important question, the most important condition of this chapter, erythroblastosis fetalis. Clumping of RBC. Clumping of RBC of mother or the fetus during the pregnancy time. Very important condition question may come from this unit, from this topic. So when the mother is RH negative, the condition is the mother is RH negative and the father is RH positive. Mother is RH negative, father is RH positive. So the fetus becomes, sometimes the fetus can be RH positive or RH negative. So if the mother is RH negative, the father is RH positive, and let's imagine that the fetus is RH positive. Do not consider about the father, just consider the mother and the fetus. Mother Rh negative, fetus Rh positive. That is a particular antigen is present in the fetus. That can cause some kind of an what? Some kind of exaggerating mechanism in the mother's body to produce certain kinds of antibody to destroy the antigen or the foreign substance present in the body. So in the first pregnancy, there is no thing. Okay, in the first pregnancy, there is no risk over there because they are well protected. The fetus and the mother is well protected by the covering of placenta. But after the first pregnancy, at the time of second pregnancy, if the condition repeats, Rh negative, Rh positive, again repeats in case, what happens is that there may be some scratches or some small openings that might have formed in the placenta. So that particular thing can cause the mixing of blood of the mother and the fetus, of the Rh positive and the Rh negative blood, which can cause, that is, there are chances of mixing of fetus blood with that of the mother's blood during delivery. The mother's body produces antibody against the antigen, which may go to the fetus, results in the agglutination or the clumping of RBC. Very important, the term agglutination. So, to avoid this, mother is always injected with anti-Rh antibody even soon after the delivery of the first child. Okay, to not to produce. What do you mean by anti-Rh? To not to produce the the particular antibody which helps in not to produce the Rh antibody. Clear? So if an Rh antigen present also, no antibody, no anti-Rh antibody will be produced inside the mother's body because she has been injected with an anti-Rh antibody. Okay? Guys, if the mother is Rh negative, if the mother is Rh positive and the fetus is Rh negative, what happens? No issue is there. Because in the mother's body, positive antigen is there. In fetus, no particular extra antigen is present. So there is no issue with the agglutination purposes. Clear? Clear? Is it clear for everybody? Let's move with the next topic. Coagulation of blood. What is it? Coagulation of blood. Blood clotting prevents the excess loss of blood from an injury. Blood clotting prevents the excess loss of blood from an injury. The clot is made up of a network of fibrin which traps the dead formed elements. What are the inactive fibrinogen? I already told you nogen. Yesterday's class also trypsinogen, chymotrypsinogen, those with ends with nogen, they are inactive. So the inactive fibrinogen is converted into active fibrin by the enzyme thrombin. Three terms are very important: fibrinogen, inactive, fibrin, active. This transport or this conversion is facilitated by the enzyme thrombin. Inactive prothrombin is converted into active thrombin by the enzyme thrombokinase. So inactive thrombin is converted into active thrombin by the help of enzyme thrombokinase. So all those things you have to by heart. These are all previous year MCQ question. Clear? And injury stimulates the platelets to release certain factor which initiates the process of blood clotting. And the most important ion that helps in the clotting of blood is the calcium ions. Okay. Okay, everybody. So the when a injury occurs inside our body, when the injury occurs, what happens? The platelet stimulates the initiation, or the platelets are stimulated, which initiates the process of blood coagulation. So the calcium ions along with the thrombokinase enzyme, the injured part of the blood releases the thrombokinase enzyme. So this thrombokinase along with the calcium ion converts inactive prothrombin into active thrombin. The thrombin converts inactive fibrinogen present in the blood plasma to active fibrin. Next, about the structure, about the function of lymph. There is no question may really come from this lymph, but we have to study since it is there in your NCRT textbook. Lymph is also a fluid connective tissue. We have already mentioned the lymphatic system. So lymphatic system means lymph vessels. Lymphatic system means it consists of, you might have seen that we will be telling vascular system, blood vessels, everything. Just like lymph and lymph vessel together forms the lymphatic system. Lymph and lymph vessels form the lymphatic system. Lymph consists of the lymphocyte cells and is a part of the immune system of the body. And lymph helps in the absorption of fat by lacteals present in the villi. So what is the most important function? Most important function of lymph, it helps in the absorption of fat. Lymph helps in the absorption of fat. Clear? Lymph helps in the absorption of fat. Yes, everyone. Next one. This was one of the easy topic which we have already discussed in the chapter Animal Kingdom. Circulatory pathways are mainly of two types: open circulatory system and closed circulatory system. In lower group of organisms such as arthropods, mollusks and all, you will have an open circulatory system. That is, there is no specific duct to carry the blood, to carry the particular fluid secretions from the body. So they are pumped. The blood vessels are not found, and the blood is present in the open cavity. The open cavity is known as sinuses. And in case of cockroach, in case of crab, prawn and all those things, arthropods and mollusks, you would see that when you cut their body, blood will gush out because there is no blood vessel. In case of human beings, if it is a deep cut only, what happens? Blood will come out because the blood is flowing inside the blood vessels only, and this blood vessels on the top, you will have muscles are there, bones are there, cartilage is there, ligaments may be there, all those things. It is supported by a number of structures. So if it is a deep cut only, in case of human beings, you will have what? The gushing of the blood outside the body. But in case of the lower group of organisms such as arthropods and mollusks, you will see that their internal organs are found floating inside the blood, because the blood from the heart is directly pumped on to the body itself, because there is no blood vessel. Blood vessels are not found. Closed circulatory system means the blood vessels circulate the blood. This type is present in annelids and all chordates. In case of annelids and chordates, you will have what? Closed kind of circulatory system. Is that clear for everybody? Clear? Okay, let's move on. Very important, just take a snapshot for this, everybody. Just take a snapshot, everybody. The fish have a two-chambered heart. That is class. These are all the topics from the chapter Animal Kingdom, so I'm not explaining it in detail. Fish has a two-chambered heart. One atrium is there, one ventricle is there, and it shows single circulation. Amphibians and reptiles will show have a three-chambered heart with two atrium and one ventricle, that shows incomplete double circulation. The crocodiles, birds and mammals shows four-chambered heart, two atrium, two ventricles, and that shows a double circulation. So the fishes, the class species shows two-chambered heart. Two-chambered heart means one atrium and one ventricle, so they show single circulation. Amphibians and reptiles have three-chambered heart with two atrium and one ventricle. that is they show incomplete double circulation. All those organisms would pump out only mixed type of blood. That is, there will not be any oxygenated blood. Pure, we cannot say that is the blood is purely oxygenated, the blood is purely deoxygenated. We cannot say anything like that, because two atrium, one ventricle, because when the blood comes to the ventricle, it will get mixed up. In case of crocodiles, birds and mammals, there are four chambers, two atrium, two ventricles. The right side always filled with deoxygenated blood, left side always filled with oxygenated blood. So let's move on to the topic of human circulatory system, and before that I'll tell you how many slides are left out. Yes. Human circulatory system, first organ, the most important organ of the human circulatory system, without which circulatory system is nothing. That is heart. Simple points we are discussing again. Heart is four-chambered. They are derived from mesoderm. In case animal kingdom, you have studied three germ layers, right? Ectoderms, endoderms, and mesoderm. So the heart is a four-chambered structure that is formed from or derived from the mesoderm layer, the middle layer. It is present between the two lungs. Okay, this is one lung, this is another lung. So in between the two lungs, you will have the situation of what? The heart. So the heart is present in the thoracic cavity itself and is protected by the pericardium. The heart is a four-chambered one derived from the mesoderm. It is present between the two lungs in the thoracic cavity and is protected by the pericardium. Just take a screenshot. I'm not going to explain each of the parts. You know what are these? This is the right atrium. This is the right ventricle. This is the left atrium and this is the left ventricle. This particular structure you will call it as number 11. That is septum. Atrioventricular septum. This right side you will have a particular valve-like structure which is known as right tricuspid valve. In the left side you will have bi or mitral valve, bicuspid or the mitral valve. Then the oxygenated blood from the right ventricle, the deoxygenated blood is pumped onto the lungs through the pulmonary artery. Through the pulmonary artery. Clear? Through the pulmonary artery, and the oxygenated blood reaches back into the heart through the pulmonary vein. Clear? Pulmonary vein. Very important one. A bicuspid valve or a mitral valve is present between the left atrium and the left ventricle, and a tricuspid valve is present between the right atrium and the right ventricle. What is their function? They prevent the backflow of the blood from the ventricle to the auricle. Always blood flows from auricle to ventricle on both sides. So this tricuspid valve on the right side and the bicuspid valve or the mitral valve on the left side prevents the backflow of blood from ventricle to auricles. Next, the right ventricle opens into the pulmonary artery. We already told and we already seen that the right ventricle, this is the right ventricle, it opens into the pulmonary artery. Right, it opens into the pulmonary artery, and the left ventricle opens into the aorta. Very important. Both of them are guarded by the semilunar valve. One more time I'll show you. And the left ventricle is opening. Look, this is the opening of the aorta. This is the left ventricle. So left ventricle opening into the aorta. So this is the aorta. Okay. Both the opening have valves. This is the pulmonary semilunar valve and this is the aortic semilunar valve. The heart is made up of cardiac muscle. Intercalated disc are present. Very important. In the cardiac muscle, you will have the presence of intercalated disc. Structural organization you have studied. And certain nodal tissues are also present in the human heart. The very important nodal tissue that helps in the initiation of heartbeat is the sinoatrial node. The sinoatrial node, SAN, which is present in the upper right corner of the right atrium, and the atrioventricular node present at the lower left corner of the right atrium. I don't know whether it is shown in the diagram or not. No, it's not shown. So the sinoatrial node is present on the right atrium, top side of the right atrium, top right corner of the right atrium. and the AV node is present on the right atrium in the bottom left side, left corner, lower left corner of the right atrium. So each term is very important. The bicuspid valve is present between the left atrium and left ventricle. The tricuspid valve is present between the right atrium and the right ventricle. The right ventricle opens into the pulmonary artery through the pulmonary semilunar valve, and the left ventricle opens into the aorta through the aortic semilunar valve. The heart is made up of cardiac muscle and which is containing intercalated disc, which is an important property of cardiac muscles. Okay, then you have the nodal tissues present on the right corner of the right atrium, upper right corner of the right atrium. You will have the sinoatrial node, and on the left lower corner you will have the atrioventricular node. Then the AV node divides into right and left bundle at the interventricular septum, that is the septum that separates the two ventricles, and branches into minute fibers called Purkinje fibers. So what are Purkinje fibers? So the heartbeat initiation starts from SA node, AV node, and it reaches finally to Purkinje fibers. In between you have certain names, but I'm telling it this much only right now. So the nodal musculature, the nodal tissues are auto-excitable. That is, they can generate the potential without any external stimulation. They are auto-excitable. Then the bundle of His, the Purkinje fibers along with the AV bundles forms the bundle of His. It regulates the heartbeat and conducts the electrical impulses. The sinoatrial node is also known as the pacemaker that initiates and maintains the heart's rhythmic activity. It can generate nearly 70 to 75%, 70 to 75 action potentials per minute. Very important question. 70 to 75 action potentials per minute. Clear? Let me check, guys. My throat is aching. Yes, we have only 8 slides more. I'll finish it. Okay. Arteries and veins together, you call it as the blood vessel. Arteries and veins together. Artery, veins, and capillary is also there. Okay, capillary. Artery, veins, and capillary together, you call it as a blood vessel that transports blood to various parts of the body and to the heart also. So they are mainly made up of 3 layers: inner tunica interna. Interna, okay, intima, not interna, you can write. Middle tunica media and outer tunica externa. You will have mesothelium, endothelium, and all those things I'll tell you. So inner tunica interna, middle tunica media, outer tunica externa. So inner tunica interna, the innermost layer is made up of squamous endothelium. Then the middle layer, that is tunica media, made up of elastic fibers and smooth muscles, which is actually thin in veins. Tunica externa is fibrous connective tissue having collagen fibers. Next, we are going to discuss about cardiac cycle. First is the joint diastole. At the start of the cycle, all the 4 chambers of the heart are in a relaxed state. That is, a cardiac cycle always starts from a joint diastole, atrial systole, ventricular systole. This is the follow. This is the order: joint diastole, atrial systole, ventricular systole. So at the time of start of the cardiac cycle, all the 4 chambers remain in a relaxed state known as the joint diastole. The joint diastole is followed by an atrial systole. Atrial systole on the generation of an action potential from the SA node. The action potential transfers into the AV node and to the bundle of His, finally leading to the contraction of the ventricle, leading to ventricular systole. And at the same time, atrial diastole occurs. When ventricles contract, atria relaxes. So, first of all, the cardiac cycle starts from a joint diastole. That is, all the 4 chambers are in a relaxed state, and it reaches the atrial systole, and next when an impulse is received from the SA node, it will suddenly causes the contraction of the ventricle causing ventricular systole. At the same time, atrial diastole happens on the other side. Okay, my throat is paining a bit, so I'll try to complete it. So the ventricular systole, it causes, how is the ventricular systole happening? It causes the closure of the tricuspid and bicuspid valve, and the ventricular diastole with the closure of semilunar valve. That is why two sounds are produced, lub, dub. Lub and dub sound, when it is produced, lub sound is produced during ventricular systole, that is closure of tricuspid, cuspid valves. Dub sound is produced during atrial systole or ventricular diastole when the closure of semilunar valves happens. Guys, when ventricles contract, atria relax. When atria contract, ventricles relax. So the bicuspid and the tricuspid valves open at the stage of joint diastole is achieved once again, and this complete one full cycle of cardiac cycle. The SA node generates a new action potential and the full process is repeated again. So the heartbeat per minute is 72 times. So it means that 72 cardiac cycle. 72 cardiac cycle means a joint diastole, a ventricular systole, a ventricular diastole. Three things happening all together in 72 times in a minute. In minute, 72 times it's happening. And each cardiac cycle, it is 0.8. Okay, each cardiac cycle takes place in 0.8 seconds. 0.8 seconds. Next important terms, both of them, stroke volume, cardiac output. What do you mean by stroke volume and what do you mean by cardiac output? Stroke volume means it is the amount of blood each ventricle pumps in a cardiac cycle, and its amount is 70 ml. Each ventricle pumps out 70 ml of blood from the ventricle. So stroke volume refers to the amount of blood or the volume of blood that is pumped by the ventricles. That is, it is given as 70 ml. Next, you have the cardiac output. It is the total output of blood from each ventricle. That is, it can be calculated by stroke volume. 70 ml into number of heartbeats per minute. That is 70 into 72. Per minute, it is 72. So 70 into 72. What is the total? 70 into 72. Okay, so 70 into 72, and it depends upon the question also, which is actually 5 liter in a healthy individual. It's nearly coming to a total of 5040 or something, right? And it is ml, and it will be changed into 5 liter or something. So the cardiac output varies from person to person. An athlete will have more cardiac output compared to an ordinary person. So in each cardiac cycle, two different sounds are produced. That is a lub sound and a dub sound is produced. We already learned, and this is what the doctor measures or hear using a stethoscope. The first sound is the lub when cuspid valve closes at the time of ventricular systole. The second sound is a dub sound when the semilunar valve closes at the time of ventricular diastole. So these are the two main sounds that we hear using the stethoscope. A doctor hear you during the cardiac cycle. Once again, let me check. Yes, four more. ECG we are going to discuss next. Okay. ECG, what is we are going to discuss next? ECG is actually the electrical activity of the cardiac cycle that can be recorded in a graphical form by an electrocardiogram or ECG. Guys, electrocardiograph is actually the machine by which ECG is recorded. And that graph paper which you will get, that you will call it as electrocardiogram. But always we call it as ECG. What is the full form of ECG? Electrocardiograph. It's not electrocardiograph, it's electrocardiogram. That machine by which ECG is measured is called electrocardiograph. Various phases are there. P wave is there. QRS complex is there. T wave is there. P wave means this is how it goes. P is this, Q, R, S, and T wave. P represents the excitation or depolarization of the atria. Very important. P wave represents a depolarization of the atria or excitation of the atria. QRS complex indicates the depolarization of the ventricles, and T wave repolarization of the ventricles, that is from excited to the normal form. The number of QRX complex recorded in a time period tells the heart rate of the patient. So what is heart rate? The number of QRX complex only. Okay, heart rate is equal to QRS complex. It's not P plus QRS plus T. It's QRS complex alone. And any deviation from this particular normal ECG would refer to what? An abnormality. This is the structure of ECG. Clarity is less. P wave, excitation, depolarization of the atria, QRX complex, which determines the heart rate, and T wave. What is T wave representing? T wave represents a repolarization of the ventricles from excited form to the normal state. Next, you have the concept about double circulation of blood. What do you mean by double circulation? It includes two different circulation, that is a pulmonary circulation and the systemic circulation. Pulmonary circulation means the pulmonary artery receives deoxygenated blood and it is transported to the lungs. From the lungs, oxygenated blood is transported to the left atrium through the pulmonary vein, and this is referred to as the pulmonary circulation. Pulmonary means lung. So the circulation which involves a purification of the blood, you will call it as the pulmonary circulation. That is the deoxygenated blood from the right ventricle is carried upon by the right pulmonary artery to the lungs, from which the oxygenated blood is carried back to the left ventricle of the heart through the left pulmonary vein. Systemic circulation means oxygenated blood is from the right ventricle is passed on, from the left ventricle is passed on. This is a septum. Left ventricle is passed on to the left atrium. From the left atrium is pumped on to the left ventricle, and from the left ventricle they are passed on to the aorta, which pumps the blood to all parts of the body. So what is the main function of the artery? It carries oxygenated blood, except the pulmonary artery that carries a deoxygenated blood. Very important one, pulmonary artery and pulmonary vein. Clear, everybody? Clear? Hepatic portal system. Next one, hepatic portal system. What do you mean by hepatic portal system? They are actually the vascular connection between the liver and the digestive tract. So liver and the digestive tract and all detoxification and all you will be done in the liver. So transportation of blood is essential there. So that particular circulatory system associated or that act as an interconnection between liver and digestive tract, you will call it as what? The hepatic portal system. The hepatic portal vein collects intestinal blood and transports to the liver and then goes to the systemic circulation. One of the very important, moving on to the last topic of this chapter, very important one, regulation of cardiac activity. The heart is myogenic. What do you mean by myogenic? There are two different types of heart. That is myogenic heart is there. Neurogenic heart is there. What do you mean by myogenic and what do you mean by neurogenic? Myogenic means activity or the initiation of heartbeat is initiated in the heart itself. Neurogenic means there are specialized nerves. In case of certain organism, they are neurogenic in nature. So in those organisms, there will be a specific nerves to initiate the heartbeat. So in case of human beings, myogenic heart activity regulated by the nodal tissues present in the heart itself is moderated by the autonomic nervous system, by a neural center in the medulla oblongata, sympathetic nervous system, and adrenal medullary hormone increases the heartbeat and cardiac output. The parasympathetic nervous system, opposite in function, decreases the heart rate after the tough situation is over. Give me a thumbs up on the chat box, everybody. Yes. Moving on to the last topic of this chapter, disorders of circulatory system. That is, The most important, high blood pressure, which is referred to as hypertension. The normal blood pressure is 120 bar 80 mm of Hg, but in case of hypertension, the 120 may rise to 140, 80 may rise to 190, 80 may give to 90. 120 is actually the systolic pressure, 80 is actually the diastolic pressure. So high BP means the blood pressure increases beyond 140 to 190, 140 to 90. It might adversely affect if at for a long time, for a prolonged time, if this blood pressure is maintained, that is a high blood pressure is happening, it might adversely affect various heart disease may be causing, may adversely affect the brain and the kidneys. Next, you have the coronary artery disease. It is referred to as arteriosclerosis. Atherosclerosis also similar term itself, but we use it alternatively. It affects the supply of blood to the heart. The lumen of the artery become narrower due to the deposition of cholesterol, fats, calcium, and fibrous tissue. So in case of arteriosclerosis or atherosclerosis or coronary artery disease or CAD, what happens is that the blood vessels, the arteries are occupied with the help of, they are getting blocked due to the deposition of cholesterol, fat, calcium, or the fibrous tissues. Then you have the angina. Angina pectoris, the severe, the acute chest pain is referred to as angina. It is caused due to the deficiency of oxygen. What is the cause of high blood pressure? Increased heart rate. That is 120, 80 is the normal. It may rise to 140, 90. Then about the coronary artery disease, atherosclerosis or arteriosclerosis due to the deposition of cholesterol, then fat, calcium and other fibrous tissues in the artery, making the artery narrower. Angina pectoris means it is acute chest pain caused due to the insufficient supply of oxygen in the heart muscles. Next is the heart failure, when the heart fails to pump blood. Angina means when the heart doesn't receive the oxygenated blood. Heart failure means heart is not at all doing its functions properly. Okay, it's not pumping the blood to as per the body requirements due to the congestion of the lungs. It's one of the main symptoms of this disease. Last one is a coronary thrombosis, in which there is a clot in the formation in the coronary artery. Coronary artery is a different artery that carry the oxygenated blood to the heart. So in the coronary artery, you would have the block due to the clotting of blood. So don't forget to hit the like button once again. Don't forget to share it with your friends, subscribe the channel, and do comment about this session. If you have any doubt, I have been watching the session, and if you have any doubt, just comment out your doubts. I'll reply. And if you're feeling shy to ask in comment, just text me in Telegram, in personal, I'll tell you, or in group also, I'll explain it if I'm not clarifying any of your doubts. Okay, so that's all about today's session. That was the end of today's session, body fluids and circulation. Even though premiered session, I have made each and every points clear to each one of you over here. Am I right? It's very clear. It's very perfect. I hope I have included maximum number of points over here. I'll provide you the notes also after this. So soon after this, I'll send the link of the Google Forms in the group for you to write the exams. Clear? Bye-bye, guys. Take care.